3 new cars, a brand new track, and one major update since our last Friday championship. Who will come out on top in season 11 of the RCI Friday GT3 Sprint Champ? Welcome everybody, I'm Tim Peck, joined today in the booth by Austin Devonshire and Ryan Mawson, who's joining us on the cameras today. Austin, we've got some big changes in ACC at the moment. Any wild predictions for today?
I mean, going into something like this, it's hard to make any predictions at all when, this is our first GT3 season with the new update, as you were saying there, Tim. So, I don't know. Like, obviously, it's very easy to look at the qualifying sheets. The Porsche seems to be the car to beat in, but, I mean, will that handle during the race? We'll have to see.
Absolutely, of course, the 3 new cars are the Porsche, the Lambo and the Ferrari. I probably didn't need to tell you guys that at home though, as it is currently the dominating cars in this championship. As you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, most drivers opting into taking the new cars this time round. Of course, you've got a couple, Martin Lawrence, Christoph Verstappen, and some others further down the field there who have opted into taking some of the other cars. And that's the thing, Austin, is yes, we've got 3 brand new cars today, but actually across the patch as a whole there's been loads of cars that have changed slightly. We've heard from different people throughout RCI that a lot of the cars have had quite dramatic physical changes in how they all handle, so it's going to be interesting to see today not just how the new cars perform, but how some of the old cars perform against them as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a clean slate, it's like guys, this is really exciting. Like, this is basically like an entire new meta for the game, like the cars you might have seen before. I mean, looking at Verstappen at the moment, championship winner last season, obviously, in the Aston Martin. Not always been the quickest car, even the Aston, but, with the new update, it's fixed things up even more again, and it's good seeing the Bentleys back out there as well, even if Verstappen seems to be struggling in that.
Absolutely. It's great to see the Bentley. I know Mawson, our broadcaster, absolutely loves the Bentley being on the field as well. Of course, we've heard from some of the drivers and how they're feeling about the new cars. A lot of them complaining about tyre graining, saying it takes as little as 10 minutes for the tyres to start acting up, being a little bit funny and being not optimal to drive on. So that could play a huge part in this championship also. If tyres are going to be graining quite quickly, that could mean that if you manage to drive smoothly, sustain those tyres a little bit longer, you could be in for a much better race than your counterpart who may be struggling after 10 minutes on tyres that basically feel dead already.
Yeah, it's more rewarding in that case than to kind of put a driver under some kind of pressure and basically just try and make them basically run the tires down. It's not just a case of just trying to get by, as quickly as you can. You kind of have to plan your approaches now. Again, same goes for kind of as the tires are cold. It's going to be even more sensitive from what the drivers are saying. So think about race starts. Before, you had an opportunity. It's not always the smartest idea to just send it into turn 1 and blast past everyone and hope for the best. It's usually quite reckless, but it's even more punishing now, just in terms of how delicate the tyres are.
Absolutely, and of course we are running the same rules as last season, so it's an hour-long race with a 10-minute pit window directly in the middle of it, and in that pit window all you have to do is refuel the car. You don't have to do anything else specifically in that time, which means you don't necessarily have to take a new set of tyres. That can save you, Austin, a couple of seconds in your pit stop. Last season we saw it that most of the way through, drivers actually just opted into driving on the same tyres the entire way through the race. But again, with these graining issues and tyres starting to fall off in as little as 10 minutes, do you think this time round in this season, it might actually be smarter to just take the fresh set of tyres in the pit stop, even though it takes that couple of seconds longer standing still?
I think that's going to depend on setup, because that's the other thing with this new update. Like, the way setups work has completely changed as well. So, if you've only sort of saved from previous updates, that isn't going to work. The way the car, the physics engine of the car, the tire model, the suspension model, it's all been fundamentally changed at a core level. So, it all comes down to, again, this also makes me question, can you set a car up on this now to kind of alleviate some of those tire issues at the cost of speed? I think before a lot of drivers would take the tire wear over, saving, a tenth or two per lap. But is is the way things are working now, the way the game calculates these things, are we going to see drivers compromising the setups for more tire longevity? That's something we'll need to see.
Absolutely. It's definitely going to be interesting with the setups as well. Of course, this update hasn't been out long. It's only been about a week now that we've had it, Austin. So a lot of drivers still tinkering with different setups on the cars. I imagine most haven't found a setup they're fully comfortable with yet either. Most drivers as well would have tried out each different car separately rather than just focused on one as well. So there's a long way to go in this championship. I imagine towards the end, when the setups become more refined, the drivers are a lot more comfortable in the cars as well, then we'll see a big shift in how the races start to pan out. Of course, a big warm welcome to all of you at home. We're streaming on YouTube today. We do usually stream over on Twitch, but however, for this race, we're not going to be able to. And also, we have noticed that there is some lag across the stream as a whole. I do apologize for that, and we are working to sort it out, but it looks like for today, we may just have to put up with a little bit of slow cars through some of the corners. However, it's something we are working on to fix. We're in qualifying now, just under 5 minutes to go, 4 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock, and currently Dan Edvardsson leading the way. They have that provisional pole. Salenskus in P2 behind, and Martin Lawrence, one of the contenders for the championship last season, puts himself in that final podium spot. And first thing I'm noticing, Austin, is both the Ferrari and the Porsche looking very, very good at the front there, but the Aston Martin, it remains to be a reliable car. I mean, Martin Lawrence, P3, and it's looking like the Aston Martin hasn't fallen off here.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's Lawrence driving, and Lawrence obviously was, fairly dominant throughout most of the mid-season last season, only kind of falling out, I think, from Watkins Glen, actually, where he obviously in the BMW M6 last season sort of just kind of fell off a little bit, but still, amazing drive, some amazing drives even despite, the waning performance. But that was more the car than Martin, and Martin's insane. I mean, look at... P3, but yeah, the Aston Championship winning car last season, it seems like it's still a solid option, as you were saying. I'm guessing Willamette will be in the new Lamborghini, the Evo, if I'm not mistaken. It looks like it's the Evo. So, yeah, there's just a lot of the new cars. The only old ones I think I'm seeing at the moment is Verstappen in the Bentley, Lawrence in the Aston, and that is Steer in the NSX.
Yeah, absolutely. We've only got a couple of different cars on the field. From what I've heard as well, Austin, the Ferrari is quoted from Jesse Lee himself here. It's an absolute dream to drive. So I think the Ferrari as a whole, it's the one that a lot of drivers feeling the most comfortable on right now. It seems very good right off the bat. Of course, the Porsche as well, really, really good. And the Lamborghini too. They're all really good cars at the moment. But like you said, maybe taking a little bit more out of the setup for those. It's taken some time for drivers just to find some real comfortable footing there. But advancing on pole in the Ferrari, it does look like it's definitely very comfortable to drive. That being said, though, I mean, you've got Salenskus and Lagalante in those second and third positions in the Porsche as well. So
I cannot hear Tim.
It's looking good for the top three right now. Well, of course, qualifying still well underway here. Got 2 minutes left on the clock right now, and with 1 minute 5 seconds left in qualifying, Edvardsson still on that pole position. John Daly on the screens right now for Baddest Motors puts himself up into 5th place on the board. They're currently driving the Ferrari at the moment, one of the new ones as well. But Baddest Motors, we saw last season Round Connection Loss Racing had a lot of drivers in this championship. Seems this time around Baddest Motors trying out their luck now too. You got John Daly, Harry Conway, and Billy Octane, who is driving for Triple R, but also under Baddest Motors as well. Got affiliation with those guys, so be interesting to see how they do out on track at the moment. All three of them up in the top 10. Harry Conway coming around the final corner now, currently in 8th place, looking to improve on that, is slightly up on their delta, but as they cross the line here, just not quite enough to put them into a higher position. But Harry Conway going up into 8th place there. Grant Willamot just ahead in the Lamborghini in 7th place as well. So mixture of cars in the top 10 at the moment. You have good amount of Ferraris, a couple of Porsches, and of course the Lambo in there as well. And the good old reliable Aston Martin still sitting in 4th place. Martin Lawrence, though, returning to the pits, will not be doing another qualifying lap.
I mean, looking at it now, just 14 cars within a second of each other. The top 14, all the way from Edvardsen down to Lation. That's crazy. I can't remember the last time we saw such a stacked grid, really. Yeah, I mean, looking at the order now, time has just ticked down. Drivers finishing up their final laps. Conway still, sending it one last opportunity to try to move that 28 Ferrari up the field. And, I mean, running slightly wide there, and that won't have helped the case and too much at all.
Harry Conway as well is a renowned driver in RCI, has won 4 championships across their career, 3 of which were in the Night Out series. They also won the Thursday GT4 championship too. So Harry Conway, no stranger to these competitive races, will be hoping to start high. Will not most likely settle for that race finish either. I imagine they will be climbing very earlier on as well. Omar Ilano about to cross the line now. For P13 goes up to P12. They've been promoted out of the silver class. Something we've not yet mentioned, Austin, is that, of course, we've got 2 splits in one race now. We've merged it, so both pro and silver splits will be racing on the same track at the same time. Points will be divided between the top 15 drivers in each split, and there'll also be an overall leaderboard as well. So top 15 drivers, no matter what split they're in, will get points towards that too. Coming to the end of qualifying, Dan Edvardsen still sitting in that provisional pole position, a time of 1:43.47 in the Ferrari. Salenskas in P2 and Lagalante in P3. John Daly about to cross the line, the last person on the track to be coming to the end. They are up on their delta right now. They need 0.25 to be on pole. They managed to promote themselves up into that P3, and that'd be a great start for Jordan Daly in the baddest motors car there. It's an interesting top 3 we've got here, Austin, because go back one season, it was all about Martin Lawrence versus Christopher Verstappen. Now, though, Dan Edvardsen, Salenskas, and John Daly, 3 very prominent drivers that we're used to seeing in that top 10, now fighting at the top. It's looking like it's going to be a very interesting season. These cars definitely shaking up how the order of things is going right now.
I mean, let's not forget the last race of last season, though, Tim, where Verstappen was able, didn't have the best qualifying, but was able to pull it through. So, I mean, we could see the same drivers from last season kind of pull it up too, but at the same time, the balance of performance on the cars could come into play around here. Barcelona, obviously known for being a test track as well. It's where Formula One, I mean, does it still do the preseason testings? I know they do a lot in, was it Bahrain as well?
I think they do some in Spain, yeah.
Yeah, I know it's always been kind of like one of the bigger sort of testing tracks because it has high speed corners, it's got low speed corners, it's got slight elevation change. Actually, I suppose the middle sector's got quite a fair bit of elevation change. It's a track not associated with amazing racing normally, but it has its moments, and it is a really, really fun track from a driver's perspective, and it's going to bring out the strengths and weaknesses of every car on the grid.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I'm actually personally a huge fan of Barcelona as a track. It's just, I feel like it's like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. And like you said, it's not always the best for racing, but sometimes it can really surprise you, especially with these GT3s as well. Of course, we're here today, round 1 at Barcelona, and then we'll be going next week to round 2. We'll be going across the ocean to Alton Park over in the UK. Round 3 will be coming back into France, and round 3 will be at Paul Ricard. Round 4 will be at Zandvoort. Round 5, Nürburgring, and it's worth mentioning, Austin, round 6 will be coming all the way back into Spain for Valencia, which is the new track that was added into ACC. Of course, when I was looking at this season calendar, I thought, wouldn't it have been really, really funny, but also a little mean to put Valencia as the first race rather than Barcelona? But I'm guessing the way we've done it, putting it in as round 6, just gives drivers that extra opportunity to really refine their knowledge of the track and get used to it as well. But Valencia, it's going to be really interesting ending at the new track, because then you've just got everything's blown wide open, isn't it? You don't know who's going to be fastest. You don't necessarily know how all the cars are going to perform. I think we're down for a very interesting, almost photo finished end of the season.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a mixed bag. I think it's gonna be a case of people are gonna figure out setup secrets. People are gonna like start figuring out the cars and what works on each track and what doesn't. Maybe dare I say a few exploits along the way. Wouldn't be the first time we've seen people do that in ACC. So anything is possible at this point. There's so many unknowns to not just RCI but the whole ACC community right now.
Well, as we go down the grid, we're just having a look at some of the custom liveries that teams and drivers have made for this event. You saw earlier on the Connection Lost of Racing livery, a renowned one in the Friday Championships with the blue and the red mixture. Of course, we've also got, according to Javier in the chat, there's a new tier sim racing esports livery in today's race as well, a more cartoony one, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I believe Rilano behind the wheel of the tier sim sports car there, Austin, so definitely keep an eye out for that. But again, I say this every season, I love looking at these liveries. It's absolutely stunning what some of the drivers do. There's a Triple R car, Billy Octane in P10 on the right-hand side of the screen. Now the well-known light blue and pink mixture between them. But I really do love seeing the liveries, Austin, because like I've just said, one thing that happens is you get teams that just stand out and you will notice their livery anywhere. Of course, as I'm saying that, the RCI livery on your screen right now, it's Verstappen behind the wheel of that car too. Of course, they've chosen to drive for RCI in this championship. We've not given them any assists or anything, so don't worry about that. They have no other knowledge that any other driver doesn't have there either. But opting into picking the RCI car, and it was theorized earlier, Austin, that Verstappen did that because they're doing some recon right now in the Friday Championship, looking at how the Bentley performs so that we can test it for esports races later on.
I mean, what better driver really to you couldn't ask for too much more, can you, to do a little bit of testing to figure out how a car performs under new circumstances. Because look at the Race Ventura car there. Very similar color scheme at the end of things compared to the triple R car from Billy Conway as well. It's quite impartial to the color scheme myself, and that's the Iron Lynx Huracan as well. Is that the number 69?
Yeah, absolutely. You got the number 69 on the right hand there. Ryan just panning round to show you that pink. I love that livery as well, Austin, if that's what you're going to say.
No, I love the engine cover. The engine cover on the back is actually really unique. I've not seen that on a GT3 before. Maybe the Bentley's got a small one, but that centre fin is quite interesting. Again, another car looks really good from the rear, actually. I think the Ferrari. The Ferrari looks just, I don't know, something about it. I know looks aren't everything, but...
Well, they certainly help, and when you've got a car that looks that good, you can be sure it will hopefully drive as good as well. Cars going off now for their outlap, leading the field. Danet Edvardsen sits pole position for this race in the number 180. Justus Selenskus just behind them sits in P2, and John Daly will round out that top three. Of course, on Barcelona, Austin, you've got that nice long run down to the first corner. Start-finish line is quite far back in the straight as well, so it really is a long dash almost, a little sprint to the end of that first straight, and we could see a lot happening there. Of course, one of the cars that usually struggles with that is the Porsche. That may just change this season around with the new Porsche coming out and the changes, but going down to turn one, what are you expecting to see? I think it could be a real opportunity for both Selenskus and Daly here to maybe get an overtake off and pull into the lead quite early on.
It really could. It all depends on who gets the right starts though, as well as lights go green, because that will also have an effect. again, we just don't know what these cars are going to be like off the line. This is our first time seeing, who's got the initial acceleration going down towards turn one, who's got the better reactions, who's going to be in the better position, as, you're lining up for the lights to go green in the first place. There's so many factors that come into this. So we'll just have to see how it plays out, but I wouldn't be surprised to find drivers wanting to make up as much an opportunity as they can.
Absolutely, and we'll talk about them more after the race, but these are our partners who help to make the racing possible. We have AK Esports, Digital Motorsports, Driver 61, Go Setups, and Fanatec. We'll talk more about what each of those partners do and how they help us after the race has finished, and also throughout the race too. But for now, coming round through the middle sector, and again, yeah, Austin, I have to agree with you. It's going to come down to who gets that good runoff at the start. Of course, Zelenskas in the Porsche. We've yet to see how that new one performs in a straight line, so that could be a bit nerve-wracking for them. But John Daly here in the brand new Ferrari might have a real opportunity here. I think they're definitely going to be one to watch going down towards turn one.
Oh yeah, 100%. Daly put in that flyer of a lap in qualifying, that last chance hurrah to get into the top 3 in the first place. So when, first place is 2 cars ahead, you're going to take every opportunity you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we said, the run down to turn 1 at Barcelona, you can see on the map on your right, it's a really long start finish straight, and the cars about to cross the line now will be getting on their way too, and it just makes it really easy for a car to slingshot themselves around. That being said, Dan Vardsson off to a really bad start there. It's allowed Salenskas already to come through as well, and you can see John Daly lurking towards the inside there, trying to be pulled through alongside the Porsche too, but Zelenskas leads into turn 1, and Vardsson getting swallowed up, falls back 2, maybe even 3 positions there, as they just struggle to hold on to the inside. Martin Lawrence protection loss racing, they're going round the outside to a huge pile up in the middle. A couple of cars facing the wrong way there as well on the exit of turn 2, but for now I believe Salenskas gets through that first corner with the major advantage. Cars still 2 wide as we come up now towards the end of the sector. Plasman there going for a move down the right, managed to push himself up past Van der Linde there as well. That'll promote them up a position 2, and overall, Austin, it looked great from the front, but fairly messy towards the back there.
Yeah, it just looks like everyone just kind of clustered together. It's quite a tight sequence, turn 1 and 2, and it just seems like everyone just got a little bit clustered together. I was kind of all eyes on Martin Lawrence there for just a second, because for a brief moment, it looked like they pulled themselves up into the podium positions, which, coming from so far back, they must have got a great start. But towards the back, yeah, it was. I saw Ferrari sideways. I think I saw B. Collins in the 134, and again another blue and pink liveried car. I saw that get a little bit involved as well. Verstappen has been quite badly impacted by that too, down in 16th currently.
Yeah, Verstappen, I think, got held up a little bit coming out of turn 2. Of course, I believe they only started in P11, so not somewhere Verstappen's used to starting anyway, but now does have a bit of a climbing job on their shoulders. Danny Santo in the Tier Sim Racing esports car coming now onto the start-finish straight. They managed to get themselves up into 7th position. Salenskas leading by 1.7 seconds at the front there to John Daly. Danny Santo now though looks for a move possibly around the outside of Grant Willamot there, tucked back in behind the Lambo, doesn't quite have enough momentum to pull himself through that first corner. But yeah, Austin, my eyes were on Martin Lawrence at the beginning there as well. I for sure thought that going around the side of turn 3, it looked like they'd managed to slingshot themselves up into 3rd place. However, still from P5 to P4, they've overtaken the pole sitter. Dan Vardsson though, losing 4 positions on lap 1. That has got to hurt.
Yeah, but there's still plenty of time to kind of pull it back. But with with Martin Lawrence in front, it's going to be hard trying to cling to the back of that Aston for sure. It still amazes me just how quick that car still is in this update. I know everything's an unknown, but I know there's a few legacy cars towards the back of the field, but I think they're also in the silver class, which, no discredit to the silver drivers. Now, we've seen some silver drivers be just as quick as the pros. It's just, it's a great opportunity for these guys just to get a little bit more experience of kind of running with the higher class drivers, as we see, is it Texiera coming in the 31 AMG. just about going onto the back of Pin in the 77 Huracan. Just a little bit of a cluster towards the back of the field there in P20. Very stacked grid actually as well. 31 cars currently.
Yeah, 31 cars with the splits merged. It's a fairly competitive field, and as you said, it's a great opportunity for the silver split drivers to showcase what they can do against some of the pros as well. A bit of a battle here coming through the final two corners. Teixeira manages to come out on top there. The number 31 Mercedes now onto the start-finish straight, holds on to their position. And I've just noticed, also, is that Harry Conway down in 25th now? They've got themselves up a couple of positions, but Harry Conway, this side a lot further up the field, I believe P9. So the baddest Motors driver, one of the ones to get a little caught up in that turn one accident. Just ahead of them now is Sarah Stant in the 604, a fellow commentator here at RCI who's competing in this series now as well. But Harry Conway, I mean, I said at the beginning, they're going to be one to watch today and across the championship as a whole, because they're such a good driver. They've got 4 seasons won under their belt. But again, it just looks like previous champions having a bit of a struggle through lap 1 on the circuit so far.
I mean, maybe, like, hear me out here, but maybe, like, kind of their own sort of success is kind of a curse in a way. You know, you played a game, you know, for so long, and the game's gone through several big changes over the course of its lifetime. I remember when ACC first released, it was kind of known as the game that had a lot of potential, but needed a lot of things working out. And obviously, you know, Kudos have worked on the game. They've kind of really grounded it. I think it was nominated for the Labour of Love and the Steam Award for the Steam Awards just a few years back. So Kudos have put a lot of work into this game and really improved it to the point of where it is now. And, you know, that doesn't come at the cost of not having a few really big updates that fundamentally change the game in some ways. So when you're a quick driver on the previous iterations of the game, you get used to the way the game feels. You know, the game, you know, it becomes a muscle memory in that sort of sense. You know what to expect every time you hit the brakes, turn in. You know exactly what to expect from the car. So when that's changed ahead of you, that's Langolati or Langolati in a bit of a tussle there. Was that with Daly? Daly into P2, so it hasn't been affected too badly by that. But that will put Langolati down a little bit down the road. But yeah, no, sorry, I'm blabbing on a bit. But going back to my point, you know, you get used to the way the game feels over a certain amount of time, and when that's changed almost from underneath you, there's almost like a relearning process that kind of goes on from there.
Yeah, absolutely. But the one thing I will say is you can be sure those drivers that maybe are struggling a little bit in the early stages today, they will bounce back later on as well. Of course, like you said, it's a learning curve. They will get used to the new cars, and also partially it's probably just a bit of bad luck at the early stages of the race as well. That's why we have a whole season for teams to make up for that. Martin Lawrence there on your screen in the connection lost racing car, now up into P3 after saw Langolati make a slight connection with John Daly. I believe just outbraking themselves, maybe slightly going into turn 1 there. Daly, of course, squeezing them to the right-hand side as much as possible, and meant that Langolati there made a connection with the side of that car. Further down the field, P9, you see Ted Edwards racing for the Race Ventura team. They're coming up now on Billy Octane in the Triple R, coming through the final couple of corners, and it's Porsche on Porsche here. Usually what we'd be saying around this point in time, Austin, is they're driving a Porsche, they're just going to lose so much time to the car ahead. Well, it's not really the case here, partially because both drivers are in Porsches, but also with the new car being a thing. It's still, I've heard, not great in a straight line, but better than the old one was. It's less of a deficit to the other cars, which the Porsche really struggled in before.
Yeah, Ricciardo looking at making a move onto Dos Ramos there, but thinking a bit better of it. I think a quote came to that's another Porsche going very slowly there. Porsche's in that vicinity. Was that? No, it wasn't Ted. It wasn't a Race Ventura Porsche. No, there's a Porsche very slow down into T1, T2 there. What you were saying before though, Tim, reminded me of I think it's a Murray Walker quote. I can't remember exactly how it goes. It's like the car he's driving is absolutely totally unique instead of but it's something to do with the car ahead, in which case it's completely identical. I can't remember the quote, but it rings true. Everyone's selling Ferraris and Porsches.
Yeah, I kind of get what you're getting at though as well, because obviously, even though they're driving the same cars, at the end of the day, they're all going to have different setups as well. And like Chris said, getting setups can play a huge part in this championship, with drivers trying to become accustomed to these new cars. They're still learning more about them every single day. Setups will play an imperative part of just helping those drivers to go further up the field here. Christoph Verstappen under pressure from Pin in the number 77 there. Pin goes for a move down the inside still, though, on the outside of Verstappen coming up through the right-hander here. Verstappen just about managing to hold on to it, but has lost another couple of positions. They were P15 a lap ago and now finding themselves down in 17th place. So maybe struggling a little bit in that Bentley. I know a lot of people excited to see it out on track today, but won't be too happy with how it's performing so far. But again, like we said, if you're going to test out a car, you want Verstappen behind the wheel for it. And hang on, why are they pulling into the pits now? Do you reckon they picked up some damage, maybe?
Bentley have a lot of damage. I mean, look at that. Look at the, look at the hood flapping about there at pit lane speeds, and the massive gash on the left-hand side of the car. That car is not happy at the moment. I mean, I know the number 747, but it looks like it's about, the car's about as large as one. Let's be honest, comparing it to the plane. But yeah, no, it's again, that's not the baddest motor. That's Harry Conway with huge damage too. So was that picked up from lap 1, or is that something a little bit more recent? Because those cars have been involved in some pretty big hits.
My theory here is they got involved in an incident in lap 1 where they picked up a fair amount of damage, but it was probably in that range where they looked at how long it would take to fix. It was maybe only a couple of seconds. They thought, well, you can still drive a car under those conditions. Like, it's a couple of seconds damage doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be losing too much time. However, we're now a couple of laps past that point in the race, and I'm wondering if maybe they've just worked out that with the recent changes to the cars and how you drive them as well, it's just not feasible anymore to try and stay out with that much damage on the car. And they've just now realized, okay, actually, yes, we're losing too much time here. We're going to have to pit, because again, Austin, you've got that mandatory pit stop you have to take. It's a 10-minute window right in the middle of the race. We're still 15 minutes off being close to that point for now. So maybe what they were thinking in their heads was, okay, let's just stay out a little bit longer, get to that pit window, and then we'll only have to pit once in this race. But again, with the recent change to AC, the damage now might just be a little bit too much, that actually can't afford to have any damage on the cars at the moment.
That's it. I mean, again, you obviously don't want to think about retiring, but using a drop round in round 1 is very risky. You have to kind of weigh up your options, for the rest of the season. It's a new season. There's still a long way to go. There's still a couple of weeks, plenty of weeks remaining to try and make up some more time. So, I mean, is it worth just getting the car back out there and just seeing what you can kind of pull from it? Obviously, you were saying top 15 positions are the point scoring positions, so even just salvaging a little bit goes a long way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think personally what the correct thing to do here is to pit, fix that damage, but just get back out on track, because like you said, you don't want to use your drop round in round 1. It's so early on the season, you don't know how the rest of the season's going to go. But also as well, at the end of the day, it's just more information, isn't it? Okay, maybe you're only fighting for P30 overall, but you're still gaining information about how your car's going to perform around the track, how other people's cars are going to perform around the track, who you're sort of on pace with and maybe able to race a little bit too. So I'm absolutely advocating for everyone, even if you did get into a turn 1 incident here that you did pick up damage, I think it's best, like Verstappen and Harry Conway have options doing here, is just to stay out on track, because at the end of the day, every second you now spend in this race is more information gained for the future racers.
100%. And we're looking at the map now. 747 close to being lapped, but that Bentley is Verstappen is back out on track. So I think they're doing exactly what you're saying, Tim. Just gaining that actually a little bit of recon, just seeing how the car handles. Just take the time to sort of really kind of be mindful about what works and what doesn't, and just try and catch up with the rest of the field and just trying to battle it out with a little bit of traffic. Martin Ryan still trying to chase down Langalanti. And again, those 911s are rapid right now. Langalanti having the fastest lap of the race so far, indicated by that purple sector. Daly still up in P2 in the 197 Ferrari, and Zelinski's 3.5 seconds ahead, leading out in first place. So I mean, the top three are really starting to kind of establish themselves.
Absolutely. I mean, Zelenskis is just flying around the track right now. Last couple of laps, I've been watching their lap times compared to Daly, and each one has been about 4 tenths quicker than Daly's. Now, it might just be that Zelenska's just feeling the car a lot better at the moment, but either way, that Porsche is looking phenomenal out on track at the moment. You've got Zelenska, Zan Galante in the top three, Octane and Edwards in 8th and 9th as well in that top 10 slot too. So the Porsche looking like it's been an incredibly good update to the car now on the track as well. Here we have on your screen Christopher McNichol and the 632 there, looking for a way through the Lexus of Wales ahead. Ducks towards the inside here for the straight. Doesn't quite have enough momentum though to get alongside them. McNichol for now just going to be chopped up a little bit. You see them falling back through the corner onto the back straight here. Coming now in Sector 3 as well, a lot further back from John Wales than they were at the beginning of the fight too. So they're just going to have to take a bit of time here to think about where is a good place to overtake on the track. And of course, I mean, it's easy for us to answer this also because we're watching it, but of course, Barcelona notoriously known for that long start-finish straight, a great place to go for an overtake. And actually speaking of, and McNichol there going down the inside of Wales, not putting up too much of a fight, it looked like, going through that corner and onto the start-finish straight they go. This is where you want to be looking for the overtakes to happen. There's just a run down to turn one. It's very easy, as you can see here, Martin Lindrup getting a slipstream on the car ahead. They'll probably swing out towards the inside, towards the end there, but actually the Ferrari quite able to catch up enough there. Didn't seem to be getting enough slipstream on Wales ahead in the Lexus. Lexus though getting very unsettled into turn two. It means turn three, Lindrup yet again looking towards the inside. Wales though covering that, not letting the Ferrari find any ground there to come through. And Martin Lindrup, Austin, take you back a season, driving very well last time round, a constant top 10 finisher, finished on the podium a couple of times in season 10 as well. Again, I think just another driver that found some misfortune early on this race. It seems like a lot of the people used to seeing at the top found themselves caught up in that turn one incident.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's a lot of drivers we've seen you typically finish quite highly, consistently in races in the past that, are a little bit further back this time around. And maybe it's partially the incident, maybe it's partially the changes to the game, but maybe it's partially a little bit of both. That may be that, damage or being involved in an incident like that affects the car far worse than it did in the past. So we're not seeing these huge comeback drivers like we have before. I mean, look at, again, case in point, it wasn't necessarily due to damage, but Martin Lawrence at Watkins Glen last season, we qualified quite far behind where we thought. And it was just kind of the attrition that basically, meant that they're able to kind of pull up, I believe it's to a P4 finish in the end, back down from P15 starting position. It just seems to be that, you get caught in traffic and just choose the car out. So it does coincide with the complaints we've had about the tyre graining with the new update.
Of course, I hadn't even considered that actually until you mentioned it, Ivor, is that, again, yeah, like you said, the drivers did complain about the tyre graining, and we're now past that 10-minute mark where we've seen the tyres start to fall off so early with that recent update. You see now Stefano Ricciardo in the 137, they've just got themselves up into P22, overtaking Ramos there. Seeing the pink Lamborghini lurking just behind them now, coming up into Sector 2. But yeah, Austin, I think with this new update, so many changes that everything's just been shaken up now, and drivers that are so used to, like you say, coming through the field really quickly, with the mixture of having to learn a new car, all of the new rules of the car as well, with tyre degradation being a bit worse, damage affecting them that little bit more. There's also been changes to the curbs as well that I've heard, where curbs now massively affect the car and you can really feel them on the force feedback as well. It seems like with all these changes, it's just going to be a learning curve of a race to find out, okay, what can these new cars do? What are they like to drive? We're now watching Galante for Porsche Motorsport there, trying to get alongside John Daly, and they've actually picked themselves up a 5-second penalty as well. We'll have a look at that in a little minute, see why they've been given that. But I like I said, Austin, I think it's just going to be a huge learning curve for these drivers, and at least for the first couple of races, it would not surprise me if we saw different podiums, even different top 10s every single week.
Yeah, I think that's going to go without saying. I mean, we're still learning these cars' strengths and weaknesses, and it's who's to say we're not going to get any kind of like slight balance tweaks, between like now or the next race, or between now and the end of the season. So yeah, I mean, as you said, the game's always constantly changing and evolving with big changes. You can't expect them to get everything, guys like Kunos at least, to get everything perfect off the bat. That's the thing with these big changes. There's often like little adjustments here and there just to kind of correct a few things and balance a few things out. I mean, every game does it to some extent with its dynamics. So it's going to be really interesting, and that might also play a part in how this championship plays out. We do have live stewarding for this event, which just means you're going to start seeing a few of the time penalties coming up in the left-hand side of your screen. That's McNichol with a drive-through penalty in the 632 Lamborghini down in 24th, and we usually get given a sheet of paper to explain these penalties, so I will find those in just a moment.
I've just picked it up actually. Also, I was going to say the incidents from lap 1 have just been reported to us. We've still got a couple more incidents coming through as well, but for now we'll cover the lap 1 turn 5 and 4 incidents. So on lap 1 turn 5, this is involving cars number 7 and car number 180. It's a 5-second penalty for car number 7 due to an overtake with contact. That's why you see Legalante there at the top with the 5-second penalty. Incident lap 1 turn 4, this is involving cars number 30 and number 9, deemed as a racing incident, both cars at fault for the contact there, so no penalty has been given to either car. And then again, incident lap 1, turn 14 and 15 this time around though, so towards the end of the lap, it's involving cars 632, the 28 and the number 41 here to drive through for car number 632. Taking out car number 41, the position was not returned, and the 28 made further contact with the 632. It's considered unavoidable though, and therefore it's just a racing incident for the number 28, but a drive through for the 632 then. Those are the lap 1 penalties that we've had so far, and I've just seen Legalante now, that's been upgraded to 10 seconds, Austin.
That's huge. That's mega. Like 10 seconds in a race like this where we're not sure how that's going to affect things. That's not what you want.
No, absolutely. You do not want a 10-second penalty. I've actually just been flicking through some of the notes. They're still updating, so I won't go through them just yet until they're done. But that was a second 5-second penalty coming through for the number 7 there. Hence why it's 10 seconds on the board as well. But yeah, like you said, you do not want a 10-second penalty in this race. It's only an hour long. You have one pit stop, a mandatory one in the middle. But if you look at where they are right now, they're in P3. Look down the field though, I'm pretty sure that 10 seconds will take them almost outside of that top 10. They may just be able to hold on to 9th place there, but still that's going to really affect them in the late stage of the race. If the other cars as well manage to close that gap, that can take Legalante out of the points. Remember, it's the top 15 here that will score points overall, and although they'll still score points in class most likely, because I believe there's only 15 pro cars on the track right now, they may not score points in the overall championship. That considers both splits there. A bit of contact ahead again between Daly and Legalante there. We watch from the front view of Martin Lawrence's cars. They come into the battle as well. So let's go. Points lead, 5 seconds they have on John Daly right now, Austin. I mean, that is a mega drive from the Porsche at the front.
These Porsches, I'm trying to find words. I mean, Legalante having the fastest lap in the race as well goes to show that they definitely have pace. They've only just got it through and being sent around. There's that contact there with Daly. Maybe a bit of a misjudgment going into the braking zone. Yeah, a little bit of contact. Daly actually backing out of that to allow Legalante back through. Otherwise, they might have the wrath of the stewards breathing down. Yeah, there we go. Daly's still backing off, and that's painful because, obviously you don't want to get involved in contact at the first. It's like Legalante potentially squeezing Daly out a little bit there as well. I mean, again, can only comment from what we see in the box, and the stewards will probably have an opinion. But yeah, that's taking Daly from 3rd place down into 6th. Lawrence will take the situation, going to P2 in the Aston. But yeah, that was messy on. I don't really know on which part. Yeah, that's for the stewards to decide.
Absolutely. I know right now I would not like to be a steward having to make a decision on what happened there. Like you said, Martin Lawrence up into P2 and Dan Edvardsen back into that P3 slot. Of course, started in pole position, had a miserable time on the start-finish straight. They just didn't get their foot down quick enough. Got swallowed up very quickly and ended up in P5 by the end of lap 1. They now find themselves back on that podium though. However, a 7-second gap to Selenskas in the lead. That is going to be a tall order to try and catch up. Oh, what's happened here? That's Sarah Stant for Porsche Motorsport, the 604 there, sitting in the wall at the side of the track, just outside of turn 1 there. I wonder if contact between her and another driver has sent them off track there. 3 wide there, going out of turn 1 into turn 2, and you can see Linjop getting forced out in the background there. Gato just trying to stay on Ibiza Racer's tail, coming up through turns 4 and 5. Ramos trying to get their position back that they lost earlier to Milano, going down the right-hand side of the corner there, helping himself up into that 18th place slot. Milano, though, not wanting to give up, going around the outside this time round, maybe trying to look for something there, but Ramos still holding on to that position. Got a good bit of momentum coming onto the short straight here. They need to stay ahead, though, through this section of corners, and they are going to do so. Agudelo now coming into the mix, trying to swallow up Rilano as well. So big fight going on here for P18 overall, and here you can see Daniels in the back of this fight looking to try and shoehorn their way in as well. I've been watching the chat as this race has unfolded so far. It's lovely to see you all here, and thank you so much for commenting. Of course, we've got some supporters of the drivers on the field, on the track right now. Javier Sardina says, "Let's go Santo." They're supporting Santo, of course, who I believe finds himself up in the top 10 right now. Danny Santo is in P7 overall, so they're doing quite well too. But overall, they've just been talking about a messy start to this race, and I've got to agree with them, Austin. I mean, we were expecting things to be shaken up a bit with the new cars and the new update on track, but I'd say as race starts go, a fairly messy start. And is this 4 cars peeling into the pits as soon as the window opens? Have these guys maybe been driving on damage all of this time and are just now going in to fix it?
I mean, that is quite a potential. I mean, looking at things, look at the drivers that have stopped for damage so far. I mean, Verstappen's still down there, struggling a little bit at the back there. So, I mean, a driver like Verstappen, you'd think would actually pull up a little bit more time, chasing down the back of the field at this point. But, who knows? I mean, it could be more of a recon run. Could be just trying to take it kind of easy, try and do some testing of some variety. But, the car's in weird places right now. Categorically weird compared to the norms that we're used to seeing. So, I mean, we can't really take anything for too much at face value with everything going on. But yeah, a lot of drivers choosing to come into the pits. That's Langalanti coming into the pit lane a little bit hot, a little bit of a bump on the inside. Sarah Stant is still stationary down at the bottom of turn 1, which makes me think, is it a technical error? Is there she had a technical failure with the car, or with sim racing equipment potentially?
Yeah, potentially there. I was wondering as well, because they have just been sitting out on the left-hand side of the track on the exit of turn 1 there. Of course, you mentioned a couple of cars now peeling into the pits. Lagalante going to be serving that 10-second penalty as well, so we'll see where that brings them out once everyone's cycled through their pit stops. Of course, we've been updated now on some of the penalties from earlier on in the race. We're not fully up to date because I'm going to be honest, Austin, it's been constant throughout the race so far, but for now, the instance from lap 2, we've got incident on lap 2, turn 3. This is involving cars 33 and the 316. It's deemed a racing incident for minor contact. Same thing between cars number 56 and 77, and also similar situation on turn 13 for the number 30 and the 28. Again, racing incident for minor contact, and then later on in the lap, turn 16 between the 31 and the number 9. Again, minor contact between those 2 cars as well. Incident on lap 2, turn 16. This is involving cars number 56 and 28. It's a drive-through for car number 28, taking out the number 56, and no position was returned there. On turn 14, still lap 2. This is involving 3 cars here. The number 30, the 134, and the 89. No further action deemed as unavoidable contact between the 3 of them. Incident on lap 4, turn 3. This is involving car number 7 and the 197. It's a 5-second penalty for car number 7. That was, of course, Galante's second 5-second penalty. As for the dive bomb on the 197 with avoidable contact, and then it was no loss of position for the 197, hence only a 5-second penalty. But that's what we saw very early on, Austin, between them and Daly at the front. We were talking briefly about that contact, so that was the outcome of that incident. Incident lap 4, turn 1. This is involving the number 31 and the number 9. 15-second penalty for car number 9. They took out the number 31, did not return the position, and themselves an extra 10 seconds on top of the normal penalties you will earn yourself there. Incident lap 4, turn 1 again. This is involving the number 31 and the 808. Car number 31 received a warning for not holding their brakes after the initial contact with car number 9. Incident lap 4, turn 12. This is involving car number 9 and the number 31. Racing incident due to minor contact. Same on turn 13, involving the number 30 and the 89. Yet again, racing incident due to minor contact as well. A couple more penalties coming in. An incident on lap 4, turn 13. This is involving the car number 30 and the 89. Drive through for car number 89 for taking out the number 30. No position returned there. And the final report, incident on lap 5, turn 3, involving cars 9, 169 and 28. It's a 5-second penalty for car number 9. Avoidable contact on the 169 and a further avoidable contact with the 28 afterwards. However, both positions were returned there, so only scoring himself a 5-second penalty. And that, Austin, is all of the penalties covered for now. Going back into the race, so halfway through, 30 minutes left, and John Daly for Baddest Motors finds himself in P10.
Yeah, it's definitely a change of order to what we're used to seeing. I think that goes without saying. John Daly had that's a huge knock, you know, going from podium position down to where they are now after the stop. But then again, a lot of drivers ahead still have to make a stop too. Lation, in silver class, running in P5, is doing incredibly well despite that. They're actually just coming in for their stop now. Yeah, again, this early last season and the opening few races, Stier put in an amazing performance down in silver. Again, running a car we kind of commended them for running, the Lamborghini. Last season was, obviously before the new one came out, the Huracan was a car we didn't see too often. That's Octane having a little bit of a moment, and that's a Ferrari. That's which Ferrari is that? It took to the inside there, but yeah, no, a little bit messy going through. Dos Ramos holding in P9 in the Iron Lynx. That's the women's car as well, the one that ran in real life. They used to categorically run Ferraris, the 488s, but and in real life they have switched over to the Lamborghini, or at least doing the Lamborghini Challenge with the women's team, and that will be what that livery is. Jordan Daly, P8, climbed at 2 places since we last saw them. Dos Ramos with a drive-through penalty just popping up on the screen, and chasing down Danny Santo.
Yeah, we'll see where exactly Daly is once the pit cycle has fully finished. Of course, pit window still open for another 3 minutes, so most cars will now be pulling in for their pit stop at some point there. I was going to talk about Joshua Lation. You mentioned earlier they were doing very well in this race so far. Not 100% sure where they're running, but it may just be inside that top 10 now once all the pit cycles are done. But Josh Lation, of course, won the Silver Split last championship, able to take it off steer in the final couple of races. There you see Ricciardo putting the fight to Wales, went for a switchback manoeuvre, and now finds himself up into that P22 slot. Brilliant overtake there for the Ferrari 137. But yeah, Joshua Lation winning the Silver Split championship last Friday, taking it off steer in the final couple of rounds. Both drivers doing a phenomenal job, and get Austin coming into this race, both have been driving very well. They're looking like hot competition right now for the rest of Silver Split. And don't get me wrong, I think these guys, they've got what it takes to compete with the pros. Honestly, like, they're in the mix of the field right now. I can totally see them being promoted to Pro Split in a future season.
I have to agree. I really have to agree. Steer's proven time and time again that they have pace, but it seems to be that they do lack a little bit of consistency. You know, as I say, we saw them, when they're quick, they are really, really quick, but, we have seen them make like, a few mistakes in the past where that haven't quite, helped their case. Obviously, we've seen a few accidents here and there, going off here and there, and, they'll be looking to kind of correct that and kind of make up for it. Running, again, P3 in class overall, Pins still yet to pit up there in P5. And again, in one of the older cars in the NSX, not a car that you typically associate with being the strong car in the game. But, with the new meta, who knows? That could also play into their hands. Obviously, they're driving a car that, they must feel comfortable in. So it's kind of impressive, to sort of see such an old dog be taught new tricks.
Absolutely, and yeah, like you were saying, like I was mentioning before as well, you can totally see both those drivers having a lot of potential to be in the pro split in the future. Someone went off track there. I'm not 100% sure who that was, but taking a bit of a trip down the left-hand side of turn 1. And looking now at Verstappen, they've dropped a couple more positions, find themselves at the back of the field yet again as well. Salenskas leaving the pit lane, of course. They were in that provisional P1. They are still in P1 after they come out of the pits as well. We'll find out just how far ahead they'll be of Martin Lawrence there. Oh, hang on a second. No, that's the scoreboard messing up. I do this every time they come out the pits. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's happened? Salenskas losing loads of positions, but it's just where they not updated the scoreboard quite yet. But we'll see just how far ahead they are of Martin Lawrence once they come through that Sector 1 time slot there. But either way, a great race all round from a lot of these drivers. And again, it just comes down to an absolute mix-up at the front of the field.
Yeah, you know what amuses me, Tim? You can throw all of the custom liveries and handy-dandy timesheets to commentators, and we will still be confused. We're very simple. We're very simple people.
On me being confused, I wasn't wrong. They're genuinely not in P1. Salenskas is in P7 overall. Yeah, Ryan Mawson just told me that actually they had a really slow pit stop compared to everyone else. The theory right now is that maybe they took tyres where other people haven't, and that's why they find themselves down in P6. Of course, we talked so much about how tyre degradation, a really big thing since the most recent update. It takes 10 minutes for the tyres to fall off, and of course with 2 30-minute stints, that's a long time to be driving on tyres that are graining heavily, and it's something that a lot of drivers have complained about so far as well. So maybe Salenskas here, being the only one to take a fresh set of tyres, could see them gain quite a lot of positions from this. We'll see though if this was the right strategic call to make. They have already gained 2 seconds on Danny Santo in that last lap alone, so it's looking like it was a great choice there from Salenskas. But it's going to be very odd to see how all these different strategies pan out, Austin, because that's the thing, going into this season, we have no idea what the meta is. We don't know what the best car on the track is. We don't know what cars perform well in which areas. We have no idea which drivers to really look out for yet either. What we really don't have a clue of is what's the strategy going to be like, because of course we're used to seeing that pit at the exact halfway mark, don't take fresh set of tyres, just fill up with as little fuel as possible and then keep going. But now, who knows, it might be the strategy like we were saying at the beginning. Maybe you do need to take a pit stop for fresh tyres, but we're going to see where Salenskas comes out. Remember, they were 7 seconds ahead. I think it may have even been 9 seconds once they finally entered the pits of Martin Lawrence there. So we'll see. Was this a mistake from Salenskas, or is this going to be a massive payoff towards the end of the race?
Well, we have to take a look at Daly here as well. And Daly, the last count was 4.8 seconds behind Willamot. So with 20 minutes to go, things are looking up for Daly. Like things, Daly is looking at making up the time that they lost with backing out. Oh, that's Verstappen involved with another incident. That was with Wales in the Lexus, and it's not Verstappen with teleporting back to pits. It was. I mean, getting involved in the lap 1 incident too. That's got to hurt. There's only so much recon that you can maybe do in situations like this. But as we were saying, quitting, kind of quitting out the race, but it's 2 laps down as well. But I mean, going back to the point at hand, Daly has a really good chance of making up for some of that lost time with the incident with like Alante. Stellenskas has already made up so much time to Santo, only a second off. You know, you disregard what I was going to say. Daly has a 15-second penalty anyway, and Stellenskas has closed down that gap to just a second in just, what, less than a lap. So, ooh, this could be interesting, Tim.
I'm so glad I'm not a steward for this race. The amount of huge penalties that have now been handed out across the board. I mean, it's
Oh,
insane. Oh no,
no.
there's Salenskas making contact with the real Danny Santo. Santo taking a big hit in the wall there as well. Salenskas, of course, doing the gentleman thing, slowing down to let Santo remain ahead, but not going to be good for Salenskas' comeback story there, because of course we were waiting to see just how much time they could make up on the fresh set of tyres compared to everyone else, and that is only going to score them a penalty in the future as well. Of course, it's held them up quite a lot too, so unfortunately we're not going to see an accurate outcome on what those fresh tyres can do from now on. It's unfortunate, and Salenskas' fight for P1 there, and again making further contact with Danny Santo. Maybe a bit of bad blood between these two now, as bashing each other through the final sector of corners there. Salenskas still looking for a way through that Ferrari, despite the number 33 having major damage on the front of that car right now. And again, just a very chaotic race all around, Austin. Penalties up and down the field, and I do feel for Verstappen there. Of course, we mentioned they came into this race likely to do some recon work, see how that Bentley's performing against all the new cars in the season. And like you say, there's only so much recon you can do before it gets to the point where you're thinking, okay, I've been at the back for ages now, I just can't do anything with this car. And you can see Justice Salenskas for Last Turn Motorsports getting that position on Danny Santo, finally finding their way back up into that P7 slot. But again, fresh tyres, so now a much longer way to go than they had before, Austin.
Yeah, I want to just make a point on the Verstappen the Verstappen situation. I mean,
perfect pronunciation there.
I totally didn't just have a moment. It's fine. But a point on the Verstappen situation. There's one thing like kind of running at the back, but I could totally understand the frustration of being sort of, in essence, I suppose, taken out, or feeling like you've been taken out. Obviously, it's not our job to kind of look over that and make any calls. No, it's down to the stewards. But I think as well, a lot of the time, it's very easy to turn around and kind of, flame other drivers for things like that. But that's, this is kind of like one reason why we kind of, it's a good idea to mix the silver and pro splits. Yes, incidents, might occur regardless as to who's at fault, but it gives people a chance to sort of build upon the experience and learn how to race side by side with other drivers. So, it's, unfortunately, incidents, happen from time to time, but it is definitely a learning experience for some drivers, and that's not said in a way to kind of flame anybody. In fact, I discourage flaming, and I encourage learning. Yeah, so it's a lot of, as I said, it's a big opportunity for silver drivers to kind of run with the big boys and sort of build upon the pace and experience that they already have.
Yeah, absolutely, and as you were alluding to earlier as well, sometimes these silver split drivers, it's not because they lack pace by any means, it's because, like you said, they may lack consistency, they may just not have a whole load of experience in sim racing as well. So like you said, it's a great opportunity for them to race up in the field, get some racing experience with chaos happening around them as well, and it's a great learning curve, I think, for a lot of these drivers. Speaking of silver split drivers, I mean, Joshua Lation up in that 7th place position. We're watching Salenskas now just coming back up through the field on the fresh set of tyres, making quick work of both Lation and Billy Octane there. But yeah, Joshua Lation, I mean, they're P1 in their class right now, P7 overall. I mean, what a phenomenal result for them in this first race. And even looking a bit further down the field there, you've got Steer and Pin almost up in that top 10 too, as we see Legalante now going for a move on Ted Edwards, breaking very late into the corner, but making that Porsche go up into the P9 slot there. Legalante back on an upward journey after a 10-second penalty earlier, saw them fall through the field. But yeah, like I was saying, an absolutely phenomenal race so far from some of these silver split drivers. Again, like, it would not surprise me if next season we saw Joshua Lation and Steer up in that pro split. They've definitely got the pace, and at this point I'd say they've almost got the consistency as well. They definitely have the racecraft too, so I would love to see them fighting at the top one day.
Yeah, I think a lot of it as well is just, have the confidence to basically step up and, step into the big boy class because, yeah, no, yeah, they certainly do have what it takes to run with the best. So, I mean, another good point as well with Lation and Steer and Pin that I wanted to kind of bring up is that this race, the thing they've all got in common is they've just kept it clean. I don't think either of the three have been the quickest on the field, not by any means. But they've just kept their nose clean. The accidents have happened around them. I mean, look at how many penalties there's been. This race hasn't been short of its action, but they've just sort of just driven around the problems, driven around the incidents around them, and basically just kind of kept, they kind of kept their cool. And that is what brings in the results, and that's what the consistency is all about.
Speaking of penalties, incident on lap 5, turn 12, involving the 747 and the number 77 car, racing incident for minor contact. Incident on lap 5, turn 12, involving the 28 and the 89. No further action as the 28 did not leave enough space for the 89 car there. Incident lap 6, turn 7. This is involving cars 808 and the 77. 5-second penalty for car number 808, overtaking with contact on the number 77. Incident on lap 9, turn 2, involving the 69 and the 137. Drive through for car 69, taking out the 137, and the position was not returned. Incident on lap 10, turn 10, involving 66 and the 134. It's a 5-second for car number 134. Dive bomb and overtake with contact, position not returned. Incident on lap 12, turn 12, involving 89 and the 134 again. It's another 5 seconds for the car 134 for a dive bomb, yet again leading into a severe avoidable contact. Position was returned, however, a second dive bomb will score them another 5 seconds there. Incident on lap 13, turn 1, this is involving the 808 and the 134. Just a warning for car number 808 for avoidable contact from the number 9 there, causing a further collision between the 808 and the 134. The incident on lap 13, turn 5, involving a 197 and the number 7, has been deemed a warning for car number 7. It was an excessive dive bomb, but no contact means that both cars will come out of that unscathed. Incident lap 13, turn 10, involving the number 7 and the 197 yet again. This time round though, 15-second penalty for car number 197. Takeout position was returned, but 15 seconds for contact between two of them going throughout the race. Incident lap 14, turn 3, involving the 137 and the 808 is a racing incident for minor contact. Same on lap 12, turn 12 for the number 43 and the 808, racing incident minor contact. And lap 15, turn 4, yet again between the 43 and the 808, again a racing incident for minor contact. Incident lap 15, turn 8, this is involving the 43 and the 808 again. No further action. The 808 makes minor rear end contact with the 43, but these two still unable to be split apart from each other, bringing us into the instant lap 15, turn 11. Again involving the 43 and the 808, racing incident for unavoidable contact between the two. Incident lap 20, turn 11, involving the 197 and the 33, racing incident for minor contact. And finally, an incident lap 20, turn 15. It's involving the 747 and number 56. There's no further action as the 747 does not leave enough space for the 56, and that's where we saw Verstappen opting into taking themselves out of this race. They've retired that car since. Joshua Lation now on your screen, going for a move on Billy Octane. Look towards the outside of turn 1 for a second. They didn't quite have enough momentum though to keep up with the Porsche through the corners, but Joshua Lation, I mean, they find themselves in P7 or still. I mean, they're racing now. Billy Octane, a renowned pro driver, trying to get himself up into P6. And again, it goes to show what this guy can do in the car.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I was actually just about to mention that. I didn't want to interrupt you. Obviously, you were hanging out with a lot of good information there. But yeah, no, Lation running with Billy Octane. Like, you're right. I mean, a driver that's been around these parts for a good long while. Al Galante getting a little bit elbows out, kind of wanting in on passing the number 3 as well there. But yeah, moving up into P6 overall, running with the Pro Class cars. I mean, totally earning their place there entirely. I'm kind of at a bit of a loss for words, but that fight, Tim, that lasted for most of like the lap before as well. Like they were kind of side by side, drawing up alongside, falling back a little bit, looking for opportunities, trying to push Billy off of a line. Like just a really, really textbook racecraft, giving Billy the space whilst at the same time asserting their position on track. I mean, textbook of a great driver. Solanskis already like .1 of a second, just a tenth of a second off of Daly. I fact, actually, he's gotten by Daly just now. There we go. Daly having the penalty anyway. There's the 15-second penalty for Solanskis as well. That'll be for the contact with Santo, I'd imagine, which is what sort of set them back in the first place, setting faster laps. I do wonder what Solanskis would be in had that incident not occurred. I mean, 7 seconds behind Willemot, they must have lost at least that trying to slow down to let Santo by after the incident. I mean, would Solanskis have had enough in the tank to challenge Lawrence for first place?
Absolutely, it does make you wonder, and I think it would be really interesting to see if they again opt into that same taking fresh tyres strategy in further races in the season as well. Of course, going back to your point on Joshua Lation and their fight there with Billy Octane, it's partially why I love Barcelona as a track. You just sometimes get those really good moments where cars are racing neck and neck with each other for a whole lap or more, as we see Lynch up there go for a move down the inside of Ibiza Racer. That'll put them up into P22 for now, but a 20-second penalty will set them back by the end of this race a bit further. But yeah, Austin, I love this track. I think it has its moments where you just get some beautiful racecraft like that. One of my fondest memories, actually, with fellow commentator Kevin Boss. We were racing in a series around this track here, Barcelona, and when we came up to each other, it was about 2 laps of solid neck and neck racing between us, constantly switching positions, and I think there was only about 5 seconds in the whole 2 laps where we were not side by side with each other. It was one of my best memories of ACC because it's just some phenomenal racing, and that's why I've got a bit of a soft spot in my heart for Barcelona. But like you said, it shows the racecraft as well from all those drivers. Of course, we know Billy Octane, great with racecraft. They're a renowned pro driver who's competed in several of the pro splits now for RCI, but Joshua Lation now putting their name out there in the Friday Championship. Had a great finish last season, managed to secure the win in Silver Split, and now again up in P6, fighting with the pros, and have been racing against a lot of them so well. I think it just goes to hand to show what this guy can do in the car.
Oh yeah, I mean, that goes without saying. He's here on merit entirely, and I think even if it's a voluntary step up to Pro Class at this point, it's so warranted. They've been so quick along a series of along a whole series of tracks. And Tim, I kind of just want to echo something you just said there. I mean, for me, Barcelona. I mean, I know in the RCI chats, I've been a bit critical of it, but end of the day, this is where I did my first endurance race. This is the track that introduced me to RCI in the first place as just a spectator or a racer. It was one of my friends that said, "Hey, this is club. They have a race on. Come join us." And we entered 2 cars into it. We went through the pre-qualifying. We got into it, and that was the 6 hours of Barcelona. That was during the pandemic, of all things. So that introduced me to RCI and taught me a lot about racing as a whole. I remember trying to let a faster car by in the chicane. And speaking of silver drivers learning, I didn't realise that I almost caused a collision with Aris, no less. And looking back on Aris's stream, there was a few comments made about, hey, pull over on the straight. And that's that learning experience. If you are a silver class driver, you can take that experience, take the lessons that have been kind of the advice that's been given to you, and start applying that. And that's how you start progressing and getting better as a driver. And you then start passing on that experience to new people that come into the sport. So it's a big circle. It's a big circle of fun.
Absolutely, I think you made a great point there. Although you're now going to be forever known to me as the guy who tried to let someone through on the chicane at the end Barcelona.
it was like, well, it was my first like official race on ACC. I'd played a little bit of hot lapping here and there, but yeah, no, it was. In hindsight, I cringe thinking about it. I remember seeing that. I remember seeing it on Aris's stream. I looked at the VOD on YouTube, and I was mortified, honestly. And but
It's a learning curve, though, like you say, like
entirely.
it's an opportunity for you to learn more, and I think that's like the beautiful thing about RCI and just these organised races in general. Is it's a really good way for drivers to learn racecraft compared to just hot lapping, as we see here. Jim Plasman gaining himself a position, overtaking Steer. This is second place in the class right now, and 61 now puts himself up into P13 overall. Great overtake from them. But yeah, also I think it's a beautiful thing about these organised races. It's just a great chance for people to learn racecraft compared to just hot lapping, and it brings the community together as well. Like I said, you learn from someone else's community how to let someone through in Barcelona, and there's definitely moments like that, and that's why we have the splits merged as well for this season. You've got those moments for the silver split drivers to see how the pros do things, and then they can learn maybe a bit about consistency, maybe a bit about like racecraft and where it's best to overtake. That being said, this race in particular maybe not the best example. We've got a lot of penalties across the field, and just out a slight laugh that I really shouldn't, because it's unfortunate at the end of the day. But Martin Lindrup there picking himself up 20 seconds. Of course, that's some penalties stacked up on top of each other there, but unfortunately for them, that's going to see them at the back of the field. But here's what I just realised, Lawson. No matter where a pro finishes in this race, they will score points in their class. They won't score points overall for the overall championship that involves both classes, but for the individual class championship, with less than 15 pro cars currently on the board, they will score points. So for Martin Lindrup here, who is almost guaranteed to finish at the back of the pro split, they will still earn some points. And like I said, at the end of the day, if you have another round which goes a little bit bad, maybe you don't finish and it counts as your drop round, these points could be the difference between a couple of positions in the championship for you as well. So I applaud Martin Lindrup here for continuing on with this race despite the setbacks that they've had so far. Going back to Justice Selenskas, they found themselves up into P3, overtaking Willemot with ease here, and now 11 seconds between them and Dan Edvardsson. I'm just wondering, it's really hard to tell, like you said, what was the best call with the tyres, because of course they got held up and they now have a penalty as well. However, I'm still opting for this was a good strategy. I think taking a fresh set of tyres has really paid off for Selenskas here.
I think it potentially could have, you know. I'd need to look at the timesheets entirely, and you know, we could maybe deduce from that. But I mean, already back up to P3 despite everything that's happened, 11 seconds behind. If we consider, you know, we give or take, you know, 4 or 5 seconds slowing down and then picking back the speed back up to try and deal, you know, to try and let Santos through after the initial collision. A little bit of scrapping going on maybe cost them 2 or 3 seconds, and then having to make their way back through the field, which probably cost them like a further 2 seconds. It starts, obviously those are just approximation of numbers, you know, that we can kind of safely assume kind of in that kind of ballpark. I mean, that makes up a good chunk of the gap towards Edvardsson, which means that there's a chance that without any of that happening, they could be on the heels of Edvardsson right now. But even with that being the case, that's still 3 minutes of the race remaining, and it would be 4 seconds plus an overtake on Edvardsson to catch up to Lawrence. So maybe it wasn't the strat.
Maybe it's something that we're just gonna have to see across the championship. I think I'm with you here. It's almost impossible to tell in this particular race. Collins there making an overtake, pushes himself up into that P12 slot there. Never mind, that was someone getting out of the way. It was a blue flag. A bit confused at what was happening there, but Collins either way on the field in P12. And I was just looking at Joshua Elation here. They're picking and choosing their battles against the different pro drivers in the field. They've just let through Lagalante. Of course, they're not going to lose that position though by the end of the race, Austin, because Lagalante has a 5-second penalty and they're still within that 5 seconds. And I'm wondering here if what they're going to think of doing is trying to catch up with John Daly. They don't have to catch up by much because Daly has a 15-second penalty, and currently Lagalante is sitting just 16 seconds outside that time. But I wonder if what Joshua is thinking here is if I sit in the Galante slipstream, I just try and keep up with them, they can maybe pull me within that 15 seconds of daily. And that's then 2 positions they gain at the end of the race. They'll finish in P5 if they manage to do that successfully as well. And either way, again, a great race from Joshua Lation. Ted Edwards in the race for Ventura car here. You can see them closing in on Billy Octane, who struggled a little bit in the last couple of laps. And just a bit of an insight for everyone at home as well onto Stellenskis' pace right now. They have been lapping a second faster every lap than both Dan Edvardsen and Martin Lawrence ahead. Sometimes it's been 1.5 seconds, 2 on the cars ahead as well. You can see now 8.9 seconds off Dan Edvardsen up in P3 and have the fastest lap of the race as well. So again, it's just going to be a case of we're going to have to watch out the whole season, see what the best strategies are as well. Martin Lawrence now for Connection Loss Racing crossing the line into their final lap of the race, currently not under pressure from anyone for that P1 slot right now. And just finally, I want to mention Sarah Stant has been in our chat, explained what happened to them and why they were parked on the left-hand side of the track there, just outside of turn 1. It was a VR runtime issue with the Oculus and ACC. Basically, there was a memory leak, hitting up to 16 gigs of memory usage, and then it kept coming over, froze the headset, froze the game, and it meant that they had to pull over to the side of the track and end their race there, unfortunately. So a bit of an issue there with some hardware, like you theorise, Austin, just causing them to have to retire from this race further. But for now, though, Ramos trying to find themselves up into that top 20, looking now towards the inside of Ricciardo. And this is, of course, a fight for position in class.
Yeah, I mean, coming up now, I mean, that would be the actually is no, that is Stellenskis also getting involved into the mix a little bit there as well. Yeah, there we go. P3 Stellenskis overtaking, or coming out obviously blue flagged for the Lamborghini. Lation is doing a great job. I mean, doing more than keeping up with Galante. It almost looks like they're going for an overtake in and of themselves. Final lap, it looks like a lot of the drivers are just trying to get as much as they can in to have a final shot at making up some more positions. Dos Ramos going side by side alongside Ricciardo in the 137, and it looks like we'll get the better going down into the chicane. Lation coming across the start finish now. That'd be Lawrence taking the checkered in P1, Edvardsen in P2. Stellenskis not too far behind, coming in P3, but does carry that 15-second time penalty.
Absolutely, and that's going to take Stellenskis down a couple of positions by the end of the race. So here you've got Grant Willemot crossing the line. Will take the final podium spot and the points for that in this race as well. But Martin Lawrence, I mean, 2 seasons running, getting that opening win of the season, it's going to be such a big confidence boost for them at Connection Loss Racing. And funny enough, doing it in Aston Martin of all cars. You've got 3 new cars on the field right now, but that Aston Martin still proving that it is worth something even after the new cars come out too. La Galante now crossing the line in P6. Joshua Lation wins for the Silver Split class, finding himself P7 overall amidst the pro drivers. Will be promoted up into P6 as well after penalties are handed out at the end of the race there. Billy Octane P8, Ted Edwards P9, and Danny Santo will tuck themselves into that final spot in the top 10 there. A couple of penalties though yet to serve will shake up these final standings a bit, as there you see Collins picking up a 142nd penalty that will take them to the back of the lap that they are on. We'll see the exact standings after this race in a minute, because it will sort itself out once all the drivers across the line. But also in a chaotic race, unfortunately we don't gain too much information that we'd have liked from it. But overall, I think there are some drivers today that can be very happy with the position that they got at the end there. I'm looking at Martin Lawrence, I'm looking at Joshua Lation, I'm looking at Dan Edvardsen managing to climb back up into that second place as well. Overall, some brilliant drives to be proud of.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the drivers that just kept the nose clean, like Lation, like Lawrence, that basically used consistency to kind of get the way there. Even Edvardsen, Edvardsen is just very consistent throughout. But then I'm also looking at drivers like Daly, who even despite having a 15-second time penalty, being sent to the back of the field, being involved in a couple of incidents, still making it back up to P5 when all is said and done. So, granted, they'll want, they'll know that there was more on the table, but it's still P5. That's still a position you can take away from.
Absolutely, and of course, Javier mentioning in the chat, Wilmot managing to score that final podium position. It's been a huge race for them and a great result. On your screen now are the results of the race. This is post penalties, so you can see where exactly everyone managed to finish, and even those at the bottom that don't have the checkered flag, they retired from the race earlier on for a multitude of reasons. But for now, Martin Lawrence is your winner of round 1 of season 11 in the Friday Champ. Edvardsen in second, Willemont in third, Joshua Lation, your silver split winner for round 1. And then you've also got Plasman. No, never mind, this is Daniels. Is it Plasman? It's Plasman crossing the line there. Yes, it's Plasman for P2 in silver, and then Daniels in P3 steer, falling back a little bit in the field, finds himself in P5 in class, but a phenomenal race all round from them. Well, I was going to mention our partners throughout the race, Austin, but I didn't get too much of a chance to, with all of the action happening out on the field. And these are the partners that help to make all of these races possible. Of course, we have AK Esports. They're a leader in esports management and competitions around the world. You can find out more about what they do and the services they provide over at akesports.it. Digital Motorsports are your one-stop shop for everything sim racing. And one thing that I totally recommend you go and check out is their sim rig builder, where you can build your own sim rig from the ground up. Visit the link in our description and go and give that a try, and you'll be interested to see what you can do there. It's a really, it's honestly, it's just a fun thing to do, even if you're not planning on buying anything. We also have Driver 61, who are helping sim racers fulfill their potential on track. They provide one-to-one driver coaching courses, and they've helped thousands of racers refine their craft and unlock their untapped potential. You can get 25% off driver coaching if you use our discount code. The link is in the description of this video. Go Setups provide expertly made ACC setups for all skill levels. Maybe worth checking them out with the new update coming out. They'll be first on top of the best setups for each of the new cars and the new changes to some of the old cars as well. You can visit the link in the description and browse their premium setup shop today. And then you've got Fanatec, who need no introduction. They're a global leader in high-end sim racing gear, from load cell pedals to direct drive wheelbases. They provide hardware of top quality to a whole range of sim racers, and you can help RCI by using our affiliate link when you make a purchase from them. Thank you very much for doing so. You can find the link to all of those partners in our description below. Go and find out more about each of them. And Austin, it's been a very exciting race so far, and if we stick around a bit longer, I may be able to get a little interview here from our silver split winner. But thoughts on the race, Austin?
I mean, messy. That's that goes without saying. Obviously, the stewards kept very busy that race, but again, very interesting. It's our first glimpse as to kind of what this update does to the game and where the game's headed for the foreseeable future. So this is big. This has genuinely been a really important race, not just in terms of kind of, for the game, but for us here at RCI, to sort of see like what we can expect from championships like from here on out. So I mean, I'm looking forward to the next round.
Yeah, me too. I think it's been such a great race all round. It's really interesting to see how each of the new cars are starting to perform. Of course, we'll get more of an idea of how they are going to be performing across the season. Again, it's going to be interesting to see what the strategy is as well. Well, someone who'll be able to give us a bit of an insight on this is the silver split winner for this race, Joshua Lation, joining us in the booth now for a post-race interview. Josh, I mean, what a race that was for you. An absolutely phenomenal drive. How was it on your end?
Yeah, no, it was a great race. Thanks for that. I mean, me and the guys, we went into this with, expecting to learn about the new tires, and yeah, it was real tough. The strategy last season was to just take fuel at the start, run the tires for the full hour. After today's race, I got a funny feeling lots of people driving the Porsche, put it that way, I kind of decided to take some tires because yeah, surprisingly, people that are a lot quicker than me at the start, but just completely died off. I had a great fight with Billy Octane as well, but he was just losing the rear in every corner. So I think the Ferrari, especially at Barcelona, was definitely better on tires, which helped me a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking quite a lot about how the tyres are affecting the drivers after the update. It was said about 10 minutes before they start to pick up major graining issues and really fall off. So looking further into the championship, we're not 100% sure what the best strategy is either, to be honest. But you say this was a research opportunity for you with the tyres. Is like you said, is that what you came into this race looking to do? Do you feel like you've got a better grasp on what's happening, or is it still very much up in the air as to what the best strategy is going forward?
I mean, I wouldn't say it was a research opportunity, but yeah, I suppose this is the first 1 hour race that we've done because I run the team with Wilkinson and Daniels as well in the silver split. So we all sort of took different approaches. Let's put it this way: Wilkinson had severe graining and light blister as well. So the approach he did, I don't think we'll be revisiting that, but he was doing a great race until he got caught up in the caught speeding in the pit lane. But I mean, I think the Ferrari characteristically has always been pretty good on tires. That's what I've done for the last 2 seasons in the 488 is just try and drag them out for an hour. But I think maybe the guys in the Porsches might need to rethink or try and adjust some toe or something because I think it's when the tires cool off, come down the straights, then as you try and load them up again, I think that's where you get the graining. I had bad graining as well. I had moderate graining at the front, but didn't seem to affect me too much in terms of relative pace of the guys around me. So I think the Ferrari is, this new 296 is a strong car, but it's one of those everybody's got to get used to it. So it's all a learning curve.
Absolutely. And again, like you mentioned, you had a great race with Billy Octane at the end of the race. Then, just throughout the whole race as well, you were looking very fighty with a lot of the other pro drivers. I'm guessing that's your overall goal is to head up into the pro split in a future season, and maybe then you can be competitive at the top. Because honestly, after watching your performance today, I'd say you have what it takes to be in that pro split and be fighting for the top 10, even maybe a podium in that class as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like, don't get me wrong. You know, go back sort of 2 years ago. I was in the pro split. I've had about 18 months off ACC. So my first race back was season 9, the Friday champ, just with a couple of mates. It was just quite casual thing. I've had the opportunity to move to pro, but I got third in silver the first season I did, season 9. I got second last season because of an unfortunate incident with Lawrence. But these things happen. It's a race. It's a race at the end of the day. So my approach is let's win the silver this season. I'm bringing it home hopefully, and then we'll move into pro, and then try and make our way up. And you do improve just racing. Even just that little race with Octane there for 10 laps or so, you could just see how hard those guys race. But yeah, I didn't feel out of place, and hopefully I didn't look out of place. And yeah, it was good fun, and I'm looking forward to Alton Park already.
You definitely did not look out of place, and good luck with the rest of the championship as well. I'm going to pass you now over to Austin. Austin, do you have any final questions for Josh before we say goodbye to them today?
I suppose one's kind of just the burning question I think a lot of people would want to ask the driver specifically, and that is overall, how do you feel about the new update?
I mean, for me personally, I jumped in on the launch party with you guys, and I took to it straight away. I know there's been, I think most of it's been positive feedback from what I've seen just on social media and whatnot. But I think it's great. You just understand the role of the car a bit more. You feel the oversteer happening before it actually happens. So I just feel the car's a bit more predictable. I don't know if it's just the new Ferrari or what, but the front end rotation just seems really good and really predictable. But yeah, I think it's great overall, and it's good that the tires are causing these issues. I know Barcelona is difficult circuit on tires, but it's good that it's causing this. Everybody's struggling. Usually we'd rock up for an hour at Barcelona and it'd be no issues, but today you could honestly see, especially I was behind the Porsches of Edwards and Octane for quite a while. I was just biding my time. I was like, I don't really want to get involved in these. But once their pace dropped off, like they just had no rear end, especially at turn 4. Whereas I felt the Ferrari had as much grip at the start as it did towards the end in turn 4. So yeah, it's a big learning curve for everyone. I think it's good. It's like a reset. It puts everybody back to square one again.
Yeah, that echoes kind of what I think I said at the start of the start of the race, at the start of the stream even. So yeah, no, It's exciting. It's got to be just as exciting for you guys as it is for us. Just observing the race to see how it all pans out. I mean, I didn't even realize you'd taken the tires. Honestly, there was so much going on at one time that I wasn't kind of keeping track as to who was doing what in the pits. But it does seem to be that taking tires might actually be like the new way to go about things. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, I think so. Like last season, if you took tires, you just had to be ridiculously quick to make it work. You probably, you put 45 liters of fuel in and new tires, you're going to be quick at the end. But I think if you did that today, you would have been a lot quicker because I was doing high 44s, low 45s at the start of the race. Towards the end, I'm into the 147s. Like we've never seen a deficit like that in ACC. I at least I haven't anyway. 2 seconds a lap slower after an hour is quite drastic, I think.
That is pretty huge. I suppose one last question: what challenges do you think you're going to be facing this season?
Well, apart from tires, funny enough, my one of my teammates, Wilkinson, he's improved a lot. We've tried to knuckle down as a team and actually try and practice a bit more and work on the setup, especially now with the new car and the new update. And I honestly think Wilkinson is going to be my biggest competitor. I'm not going to say rival because he's definitely not a rival. He was with me all the way until he had to stop going in the pits. So it's a great shame because he would have been up there with me, which is good for us because we're sort of just starting out. So eventually we all want to be in the pro split. So and our other driver Daniel's managed to get on the podium today as well. So it's all moving forward. We were, those guys were sort of mid pack last season, and they've come into this one, and you can just see even 4 or 5 hours worth of practice. We're right up there now. So that's the plan. Get us all in the pro split, work together, and learn what we can off the pro drivers.
Yeah, I think honestly that's a good way of going about it, and you've got everyone's support, I think, with that as well. I mean, it's definitely a team. We always kind of look forward to see racing, and a lot of praise for as well. So good luck with that.
Yeah, well, thanks again, guys, for hosting and obviously doing the broadcast. And yeah, I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much, Josh, for a brilliant interview there. Everyone, that was Josh Lation, your silver split winner of today. Of course, just before we wrap up the stream, if you've been watching along with today's race, I think maybe you fancy taking part in a race of your own over here at RCI. We do have a couple of options here for you. We have our Night Owl series. It's starting up this Saturday, and it will be streamed by our very own Jesse Lee and Ted Edwards. Will bring you the comms for that. Stewie will be on the broadcast that is starting up tomorrow evening, the Night Owl, and you can still sign up and get involved in that too. Of course, it's a bit up in the air at the moment as to where we're going as well. We've confirmed Zolj on the calendar. Everything else is to be confirmed. So we have an interesting season that one will be. Of course, we're starting up a Wednesday team championship as well. The sign-ups are now open. You can go over to racerci.com and sign up for that with a teammate. Those involve slightly longer races where two drivers will take to the car. It's an hour and 20 minutes. Two drivers will take to the car, and then you can navigate through the teams there as well. Our Thursday GT4 Championship is starting back up again too. Sign-ups are now open over on the website. Of course, Wednesday and Thursday championships do not have a stream at the moment, but we are looking to be able to bring you those live on YouTube and Twitch later on in the future. And then also we've got our next esports series round. That'll be on May the 7th. And I can't for the life of me remember where we are going. I really should do, so I'm just going to check that up quickly. But that'll be brought to you by all of us here at RCI. A range of different commentators will be in the booth for that one. We're in round 4 out of the 5-round championship right now. We've had a mixture of winners and people on the podium as well, so definitely go and check that out. We'll be going to Barcelona on May the 7th as well. So if you've enjoyed the action today, definitely tune in with us on Sunday, May the 7th. Starts at 12 o'clock British summer time. But for now, that is all we have time for today. Austin, any final thoughts before we close off the stream?
I think other than just kind of really excited to see what the rest of the season has to offer. I mean, I know I say that every season we do, but this time it is different. It's legitimately, as Joshua said, it's a fresh slate. Everyone's back at square one. So we'll see how that progresses, and as hopefully we get a few cleaner races and kind of compile the data from that. I mean, I don't want to sound like a complete analytic here, but it is interesting to see how far this game has come and where it's headed.
Absolutely. Like you said, it's going to be a very exciting rest of the championship. So much yet to be discovered, and we're only going to find out more from people as the championship goes on. Hopefully, we get more driver interviews like we've had with Joshua Lation today and find out exactly what the drivers are feeling too. Well, if you've enjoyed today's race, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that bell icon as well to make sure you know whenever we go live. Maybe consider giving us a like on the video as well. And you can find us over on Twitch next week too, RCI twitch.tv, and give us a follow over there as well. We'll bring you races on both these platforms. But for now, I hope you've enjoyed today's very exciting race, and we'll hope to see you again next week. Goodbye.